The Korthani fleet dropped out of hyperspace above the blue planet with the confidence of hunters approaching easy prey. Commander Zykster stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive world spin slowly below. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed the data collected by their scout ships over the past 3 cycles. The dominant species calls themselves humans, his second-in-command reported. They have basic technology, simple combustion engines, crude nuclear power, no energy shields, no interstellar capability. Zykster made a clicking sound that served as laughter among his people. Another easy conquest. The humans will make excellent workers in our mining colonies. There is something unusual in the data, Commander, the second continued, his tone uncertain. The humans keep other species in their dwellings, millions of them. They feed these creatures, clean them, and allow them to share their sleeping spaces. Pets, Zykster dismissed with a wave of his clawed hand. Many primitive species keep companion animals. It is a sign of their weakness. They waste resources on creatures that serve no practical purpose. The scout reports indicate the humans spend significant portions of their income on these animals. They have built entire industries around their care, medical facilities, food production, even burial grounds. Zykster shook his massive head. Foolish creatures. This will make the conquest even simpler. A species that wastes its resources on lesser animals cannot pose any threat to the Korthani Empire. He gave the order, and 300 ships began their descent toward Earth. The invasion began on a Tuesday morning. Sarah Chen was walking her German Shepherd Max through the park when the first ships appeared in the sky. They blocked out the sun, casting shadows across the entire city. People stopped and stared. Car alarms began to wail. Children pointed at the sky with wonder that quickly turned to fear. Max started barking immediately. His ears flattened against his head, and his hackles rose. He pulled at the leash, trying to position himself between Sarah and the strange objects above. "Easy boy," Sarah said, but her voice shook. She pulled out her phone and tried to call her husband, but the networks were already overwhelmed. The ships landed in open spaces across the world. Central Park, the Sahara Desert, the Siberian Plains, the Australian outback. From each vessel emerged thousands of Korthani soldiers, their gray skin glistening in the sunlight, their 4 eyes scanning the terrified populations before them. In New York, a Korthani commander named Vrechtel stepped forward and activated his translation device. His words boomed across the city through their ship speakers. "Humans of Earth, you are now subjects of the Korthani Empire. Do not resist. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your governments have already fallen. Report to the nearest processing center for assignment. Any resistance will be met with immediate termination." The message repeated in every language. Across the world, governments scrambled to respond. Military forces mobilized, but within hours it became clear that human weapons were ineffective against Korthani shields. Bullets bounced off their personal force fields. Missiles were intercepted before they could reach the ships. Nuclear options were discussed and rejected. The aliens controlled the skis completely. By Wednesday evening, most of Earth's leaders had surrendered. The Korthani began organizing humans into work groups, separating families, and shipping the strongest individuals to processing centers for transport to mining colonies on distant worlds. But they made a critical error. They ignored the pets. Max was one of the first to act. When the Korthani soldiers came to take Sarah from her home, the German Shepherd lunged at them with fury unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. His teeth found a gap in the soldier's armor at the joint between helmet and neck plate. The alien screamed and fell. The other soldiers raised their weapons, but Max was already gone, darting between them with speed that their targeting systems couldn't track. He bit through cables. He tore at exposed flesh. By the time reinforcements arrived, 3 Korthani lay dead and Max had escaped into the streets. Similar scenes played out across the world. In Tokyo, a woman's Akita killed 2 soldiers trying to separate her from her child. In Moscow, a pack of stray dogs ambushed a patrol, dragging soldiers into alleys where they were torn apart. In Cairo, cats emerged from shadows and leaped at alien faces, clawing at their sensitive eyes. The Korthani were confused. Their shields were designed to stop projectiles and energy weapons. They had never encountered enemies that used teeth and claws. Their armor had gaps at the joints, necessary for movement, and Earth's animals seemed to instinctively find these weak points. Commander Zykster received the first reports with disbelief. "You are telling me that the pets are killing our soldiers?" "Yes, Commander, the losses are significant. 47 soldiers killed in the first day. The attacks are increasing." "Kill the animals, all of them." But this proved more difficult than expected. The pets knew their homes and cities far better than the invaders. Dogs could track Korthani by scent and avoid their patrols. Cats moved through spaces too small for the aliens to follow. Birds attacked eyes and communications equipment. Even small animals like ferrets and rabbits found ways to sabotage equipment, chewing through wires and nesting in critical systems. And the humans began to notice. By the end of the first week, an underground resistance had formed. It started with pet owners protecting their animals from Korthani extermination squads. People hid their dogs and cats, sharing information about patrol routes, creating safe houses for both humans and pets. A retired military officer named Marcus Williams was one of the first to understand what was happening. His 3 border collies had killed a Korthani soldier who tried to enter his Montana ranch. As he examined the alien body, he noticed the weak points, the joints, the eye stalks, the breathing apparatus on their backs. "These things can be killed," he said into his camera, recording a message that would soon spread across what remained of the internet. "Their shields stop our bullets, but they don't stop our dogs. They don't stop our cats. Our pets are fighting back and they're winning. It's time we joined them." The video went viral in hours. Across the world, people began coordinating with their animals. Dog owners trained their pets to target specific weak points. Cat owners encouraged their animals to hunt at night, when the Korthani's 4 eyes struggled with Earth's darkness. Bird owners released flocks to interfere with alien communications and navigation. The Korthani had conquered over 200 worlds. They had defeated species with far more advanced technology than humanity. But they had never faced an enemy like this. They had never faced a species that had spent thousands of years forming bonds with other creatures. They had never faced the dogs, the cats, the horses, the birds, and all the other animals that had chosen to stand beside humanity. The real war was just beginning. Sarah Chen found Max 3 days after she escaped from the processing center. The German Shepherd had been leading a pack of strays through the city, hunting Korthani patrols with terrifying efficiency. When he saw Sarah, he bounded toward her, tail wagging despite the cuts and burns that covered his body. "Good boy," she whispered, hugging him close. "Good, brave boy." She joined the resistance that night. Her skills as a veterinarian made her valuable. She could treat the injuries that the animal fighters sustained. She could help them heal and return to the fight. And Max stayed by her side, her protector and partner in this new world. The Korthani had expected an easy conquest. They had expected humanity to submit like all the others. They had dismissed the pets as irrelevant, as signs of human weakness. They were wrong. The bond between humans and their animal companions was the oldest alliance on Earth. It was an alliance forged in caves and forests, in farms and cities, across thousands of generations. The aliens had made the mistake of threatening that bond, and now they would learn why that was the worst decision they had ever made. In shelters and homes across the world, dogs raised their heads, cats watched from shadows, horses stamped in their stables, birds called to each other across the sky. They had always been humanity's companions, Now they would be humanity's army. The invasion had awakened something ancient and powerful. The aliens wanted a war, and they were about to get one they never expected. Commander Zykster stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. 2,000 soldiers dead in the first month, not from human weapons which remained ineffective against their shields, from animals, from creatures the Korthani had dismissed as meaningless. "This is impossible," he growled. "We have conquered species with technology far beyond these humans. We cannot be defeated by primitive beasts." His science officer, a pale female named Kurinex, pulled up holographic data. "The animals are not acting randomly, Commander. They are coordinating, with each other and with the humans." "Coordinating? They are simple creatures. They cannot plan or strategize." "Our observations suggest otherwise. Watch this footage from the human city called Paris." The hologram showed a nighttime street. A Korthani patrol moved through the darkness, their sensors scanning for threats. Suddenly, cats appeared on the rooftops, dozens of them, their eyes glowing in the infrared spectrum. They began yowling, a cacophony that drew the soldiers' attention upward. While the patrol looked up, dogs emerged from alleys behind them, silent, precise. They struck the soldiers at the knees, toppling them. Then they went for the weak points, the joints, the breathing tubes. Within 30 seconds, the entire patrol was dead and the animals had vanished. "They are hunting us," Kurinex said quietly, "using tactics we have never encountered. The cats distract, the dogs attack. Sometimes birds disable our communications first. They adapt to our countermeasures faster than we can develop them." Zykster slammed his fist on the console. "Then we must eliminate all the animals on this planet, every single one." "That would require resources we do not have, Commander. Our estimates suggest there are over 1 billion domesticated animals on Earth, and many times that number of wild ones. We would need to destroy entire ecosystems, which would make the planet useless for colonization." "Then what do you suggest?" Kurinex hesitated. "Withdrawal. This planet is not worth the losses we are sustaining." "The Korthani Empire does not withdraw. We do not surrender to lesser species." "Then we will need to change our approach entirely. These animals are not lesser species, Commander. They are allies of the humans, and that alliance is proving more dangerous than any technology we have faced." The human resistance grew stronger every day. Marcus Williams had organized the first coordinated attack using animals and humans working together. His border collies would scout ahead, using their senses to detect Korthani positions. Then human fighters would move in with captured alien weapons, which could penetrate the shields, while the dogs covered their flanks and watched for reinforcements. The strategy spread. In South America, horses carried resistance fighters across terrain that alien vehicles couldn't navigate. In Australia, trained eagles dropped homemade explosives on alien positions. In Africa, elephants charged through enemy camps, their massive bodies unstoppable by personal shields designed to repel bullets. But perhaps the most effective fighters were the ordinary pets, the family dogs who had never been trained for combat but fought anyway. The house cats who stalked alien soldiers through suburban neighborhoods, the parakeets and parrots who mimicked Korthani radio communications, causing confusion and friendly fire incidents. These animals had spent their entire lives with humans. They knew human expressions, human emotions, human intentions. Now they turned that understanding toward protecting their humans from the invaders. They fought with a loyalty and ferocity that the Korthani could not comprehend. Sarah Chen established a field hospital in an abandoned warehouse. Her patients were both human and animal. She stitched wounds on resistance fighters and treated burned paws on dogs who had walked through the aftermath of alien weapons. Max helped her, somehow always knowing which patients needed attention most urgently. One night, a young boy was brought in with his cat, both of them injured from an encounter with a Korthani patrol. The boy clutched the orange tabby, even as Sarah tried to examine his wounds. "She saved me," the boy kept saying. "They were going to take me and Whiskers jumped at their faces. She gave me time to run." The cat had deep cuts across her side, but her green eyes remained alert, fixed on the door as if watching for more enemies. "She's a hero," Sarah told the boy gently. "Now let me help both of you." As she worked, she thought about all the times she had seen humans and their pets together in this new world. The love between them had always been there, but the invasion had transformed it into something stronger, something the aliens had never expected. The Korthani saw pets as weakness. They saw the resources spent on animals as waste. They could not understand that these bonds were not weakness at all. They were strength. They were the reason humanity had survived and thrived on this planet for thousands of years. Dogs and humans had hunted together, protected each other, grown together. Cats had guarded human homes from pests and predators. Horses had carried humans across continents. Birds had warned of dangers and provided companionship in lonely places. Now all of that shared history was being called upon. Every generation of partnership, every moment of trust built between species, was being transformed into resistance against the invaders. The Korthani had never faced anything like it, because nothing like it existed anywhere else in the galaxy. Earth was unique. Earth had allies. 3 months into the invasion, the Korthani held only scattered positions across the planet. Their grand conquest had stalled completely. Soldiers refused to go on patrol without heavy support. Ships stayed in the air, afraid to land in areas where animal attacks had been reported. Commander Zykster called a meeting of his senior officers. "This cannot continue," he said, his voice tired. "We are losing this war." "We could request reinforcements from the Empire," one officer suggested. "And tell them what? That we were defeated by creatures we classified as pets. We would be humiliated. Our entire command would be executed for incompetence. Then we must find another way." Kuranek stepped forward. "I have been studying the human-animal bonds. I believe I understand what we face." All eyes turned to her. "The humans did not domesticate these animals as slaves or tools," she explained. "They formed partnerships, mutual relationships where both species benefited. Over thousands of years, these partnerships created something unprecedented, a multi-species society where different creatures work together by choice." "By choice," Zykster scoffed. "Animals cannot choose." "These ones do. The dogs choose to protect their humans. The cats choose to hunt our soldiers. The horses choose to carry fighters into battle. They are not following instinct or training alone. They are making decisions. They are fighting because they want to." The room fell silent. "The humans call it love," Kuranex continued. "They love their animals and their animals love them. We have no equivalent concept in our species. We have never formed bonds with other creatures. We see the galaxy as a hierarchy, with the Korthani at the top and all others below us. But the humans see their animals as family, as equals in some ways." "This is weakness," Zykster insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. "No, Commander, this is their greatest strength, and it is why we cannot win this war." The turning point came in a battle that would later be called the Stand at Springfield. A Korthani force of 500 soldiers attempted to capture a human settlement that had been a center of resistance activity. They expected a difficult fight against the human guerrillas. What they found was an army. Dogs of every breed stood in ranks, their human partners beside them. Cats prowled the flanks, ready to strike from shadows. Horses carried mounted fighters. Hawks and eagles circled overhead. Even smaller animals, rabbits and ferrets and guinea pigs, had been organized to sabotage equipment and create diversions. The Korthani opened fire, but the animals had learned to use cover. They moved in patterns that confused targeting systems. They attacked in waves. each species playing its role in a coordinated assault that seemed almost choreographed. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, not a single Korthani soldier remained standing. The casualties on the human-animal side were remarkably light. They had won not through superior technology but through superior teamwork, through bonds of trust and love that the aliens could not break. News of the victory spread across the world. For the first time since the invasion began, people dared to hope that they might actually win. And in homes and shelters everywhere, humans hugged their pets a little tighter, grateful for these creatures who had become not just companions but saviors. Commander Zykster watched the battle recordings with growing despair. His once mighty fleet was now reduced to defensive positions. His soldiers feared the animals more than any enemy they had ever faced. Morale had collapsed. He called for Kuranex. When she arrived, he asked a question he had never imagined asking. If we cannot win by force, what options remain? Kuranex considered carefully before responding. Negotiation. We could attempt to make peace with the humans. The Korthani do not negotiate with conquered species. These species are not conquered, Commander. They have defeated us. Our only choices are to accept that defeat gracefully or to be destroyed completely. Zykster sat in silence for a long time. His entire life had been built on the certainty of Korthani superiority. The idea that his people could be defeated, especially by creatures they had dismissed as mere pets, shattered everything he believed. But he was not a fool. He could read the reports. He could see the trend. If the war continued, his fleet would be wiped out, and the home world would send another fleet which would also be destroyed. Eventually, the Korthani Empire would have to accept the truth. Earth was not a world to be conquered. It was a world to be respected. Prepare a communication to the human resistance, he said finally. Request a meeting to discuss terms. Kuranex nodded, but she had one more thing to say. Commander, when we meet with them, I suggest we bring no weapons and no soldiers, only ourselves. You believe they will honor a truce. I believe their animals will know if we mean them harm, and I believe we do not want to find out what happens if those animals decide we are still enemies. Zykster looked at the recording again, at the dogs and cats and horses and birds fighting alongside their human partners. He had never felt fear like this before, not of human weapons or human armies, but of the simple, profound truth of what he had seen. The pets were not pets, they were allies, they were family, they were warriors. And they had won. The negotiations took place in what had once been the United Nations building in New York. Sarah Chen was there as a representative of the resistance, Max sitting calmly at her feet. Other human leaders came with their own animal companions, dogs and cats mostly, though one delegate from Kenya arrived accompanied by a large German shepherd and a serval cat. Commander Zykster entered the room with only Kuranex beside him. He had left his weapons on his ship. He had left his soldiers behind. He came as close to humble as a Korthani could manage. The terms were simple. The Korthani would withdraw completely from Earth. They would never return. In exchange, the humans would allow them to leave in peace. And one more condition, Sarah Chen added. You will tell the other species in your empire what happened here. You will tell them that Earth is protected, that anyone who threatens this planet will face not just humans but all the creatures of Earth fighting together. Zykster hesitated. This condition would spread the story of his defeat across the galaxy. It would humiliate the Korthani Empire. But Max raised his head and stared at the alien commander with dark, intelligent eyes. The dog made no sound, no movement, but Zykster felt something he had never experienced before. He felt judged. He felt seen. Agreed, he said. The treaty was signed. Within a week, the last Korthani ship left Earth's atmosphere. The invasion was over. The world that emerged from the invasion was different from the one that had existed before. Humans looked at their pets with new understanding. These were not just companions or amusements. These were partners. These were the species that had stood beside humanity and fought for survival. Laws changed. Animals were given new protections. Research into animal intelligence received funding that would have been unthinkable before the war. Scientists worked to understand the bonds between species, to communicate more clearly with the creatures who shared Earth. Sarah Chen became famous, though she insisted that Max deserved more credit than she did. She continued her work as a veterinarian, but now she also served as an ambassador between the human and animal worlds, helping people understand their companions better. Max lived for 12 more years after the war. When he died, he was buried with full military honors, the first dog to receive such recognition. His statue stands in Central Park, a German shepherd forever vigilant, forever protecting. The story spread across the galaxy, just as the humans had demanded. Other species learned what had happened on Earth. They learned that this small blue planet had defeated the Korthani Empire not with weapons but with love, with loyalty, with bonds that transcended species. Many alien civilizations found the story hard to believe. The idea that creatures could form such deep connections with other species was foreign to most galactic cultures, but the Korthani records were clear. The evidence was undeniable. Earth was unique in the galaxy, perhaps unique in the universe. And because of that uniqueness, Earth was left alone. No other empire tried to conquer it. No other fleet descended from the stars. The animals of Earth had earned their planet a reputation that kept it safe. Years later, when humanity finally developed the technology to travel to other stars, they did not go alone. They brought their dogs and cats, their horses and birds, their ferrets and rabbits, and all the other species that had fought beside them. Other galactic species watched the human ships with fascination and fear. They saw the multi-species crews working together. They saw the bonds of trust and affection that connected humans to their animal companions. They saw something that had never existed anywhere else. Some species asked to learn. They wanted to understand how humans had formed these relationships. They wanted to know if they could do the same. Sarah Chen's daughter, herself now a grandmother, became one of the teachers. She traveled to alien worlds with her own dog, a descendant of Max, showing other species what partnership could mean. "It starts with trust," she would explain. "You have to be willing to see another creature as an equal. You have to be willing to love without expecting anything in return. And when you do that, when you truly open yourself to another being, something magical happens." The alien students struggled with these concepts. Most of them never quite understood, but a few did. A few began to form bonds with creatures on their own worlds, tentative friendships that might one day grow into something more. The humans watched and hoped. They had learned through war what their animals meant to them. They had learned that love was not weakness but strength. They wanted to share that lesson with the galaxy. Because in the end, that was what the pets had taught them. Not just how to fight, but how to live, how to connect, how to be more than a single species alone in a vast and dangerous universe. The aliens had come to Earth expecting to find prey. Instead, they found a family of many species, united by bonds older than any empire, stronger than any weapon. The pets had saved humanity, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. In the quiet moments, when the stories were told and the histories were written, people would sometimes ask what had really happened during the invasion. How had ordinary pets become warriors? How had dogs and cats and other animals understood the threat and responded to it? The scientists had their theories about instinct and training and pack behavior. The historians had their records of specific battles and heroes. The politicians had their speeches about cooperation and unity. But the pet owners knew the truth. Their animals had always understood. They had always been aware of their humans' joys and sorrows, fears and hopes. They had always been ready to protect and comfort and support. The invasion had simply given them an enemy to fight. The love between humans and their pets was not new. It was ancient. It was fundamental. It was the first alliance, the original partnership that had made humanity strong enough to survive ice ages and predators and all the challenges of evolution. The aliens had thought they were invading a primitive world with a single intelligent species. They had been wrong on both counts. Earth was not primitive. It was complex beyond anything they had imagined. And there was not one intelligent species but many, working together in ways the galaxy had never seen. The pets were not pets. They were partners, they were family, they were heroes. And they always had been. The invasion was over. The aliens were gone. But the bonds between humans and their animal companions remained, stronger than ever, a testament to the power of love across species, across barriers, across all the distances that might have kept them apart. In homes around the world, dogs curled up at their humans' feet, cats purred in comfortable laps, birds sang from their perches, horses grazed in peaceful fields. The galaxy knew now. Earth was protected, not by weapons or shields or technology, but by something far more powerful. By loyalty, by trust, by love. By the pets who had never been just pets at all. And that was the true story of how the aliens invaded Earth and met resistance from species they thought were pets. A story of war, yes, but more than that, a story of family. A story of the bonds that make us who we are. A story that would be told across the stars, for as long as there were creatures capable of love. And somewhere in whatever comes after life, Max wagged his tail, happy that his human was safe, happy that his pack was strong, happy simply to have been part of something so much bigger than himself. Good boy, Max. Good boy.